Alright folks, welcome to this exciting video where you once again join us in the beautiful landscape of Scotland here. And for today's adventure, we're joined by Highlander 87 and we're about to go and check out an incredible, ancient, potentially 2,800 year old site here, hidden within these agricultural lands of Scotland. And this is just an incredible ancient souterrain, and we have documented a few of these souterrains over the years on the channel, so I thought today it's cool to pull in here and see what's left of this souterrain here in the lands. We're kind of between Kirriemuir and Aelith, and then up at this far side is the lands of Glen Isla, and the old abandoned castle from the last adventure is actually over that direction a couple of miles. So yeah, look at this mound in the ground here is actually the ancient site. And the reason I love exploring these is because the original use or purpose of these sites is actually unknown. The history with these places is so ancient, it's actually just theorising what it may have been used for. And yeah, it's mad to come here with our own opinion and see what we think it may have been, or just to see what they were doing at that time. Imagine how ancient it is, 2,800 years ago. It's just mind-blowing, folks. And the lands of Angus had quite a lot of Iron Age history. And standing stones. Here, the motorbikes. Wow, look at this, folks. Here we are. This one's obviously, the grass is not cut. But look at that, you can see it. At one time, this would have been covered with big flat slab stones. And the interesting thing, that could be some of them, but the interesting thing, there was little tunnels and chambers leading off. So not only were they in spirals and circles, but out with that, there was big spirals and separate rooms and chambers. So it is theorised that they used to have a little house on the top, and they would store like all the grain and all their farm goods under the ground, but the real history is not known and not definite. And that's how with these videos we come and see what's left. And you have to ask the question, why did the building like this, if it was for the storage of grain, why did they make it circles within circles and then spirals often? And then also look at this, the wee side corridors. You have to imagine this when it had a roof and it was like going through a little tunnel to get into this bit here. And then look, you can see the outline of this secondary chamber. It is almost like they were living completely under the ground at times. Maybe at one time it was so dangerous there was like packs of wolves or any sort of barbarians. This was maybe their only option, to go underground. But the interesting thing with this one, it's built on this ridge here, which is different to all the other ones that I've visited. And I'm not sure if there's other parts of the souterrain at this lower level. It's maybe a multi-storey souterrain, folks, who would know? Look at this. Look at those little plants there, folks, they're absolutely incredible. Yeah, look, I'm not sure, obviously, there's stones, but they could have fallen in. The original roof often used to be the big, thick, flat stones, but the walls used to curve, so they were wide at the bottom and then they got slightly narrower to the top for the strength. And we have been in a local one to here, a local souterrain, and that was the early souterrain, and it was in the best condition that we've ever seen one. Look at this here. Wow, the roof stones are often not as big as this one though. Again, they're normally big and flat, but these could be any stones, because look, even the side stones for the actual main chamber, look how thick they are. The stones are all different sizes, just laid. Yeah, you can see this shape here, folks. Coming round, let's follow the structure in the land here and see how it changes as it goes round. See if there's any more of these little tunnels or chambers leading off. See, actually at that side it could just be a missing stone. Wow, and then see how we've got this forest here. You have to imagine 2,800 years ago, how did this site look? And all around here, it wasn't necessarily agricultural lands like we can see today. There could have been forests over this whole area, and that's the reason having it on a prominent piece of land wasn't maybe such an issue. if they were trying to be low key, and it was maybe within a crazy bit of land. There could be even more of this souterrain that's been done away with over the years. Thousands and thousands of years that pass. Because this is not necessarily the end, even though this is the end of the scar in the land. And it is a scar which is a skeleton of history. And it is cool on this channel to keep finding these places and documenting them. And shout out Highlander 87 for locating this one in the land. It is a mad location. And I reckon under my feet there'll be more souterrain. One way they used to preserve these souterrains at a certain time was to fill them up with like earth and stuff, and I think that's what's happened to this one. It is a shame to see that, because you can't really appreciate the structure as much when it's just like that. But to consider how old it is just mind-blowing history. Think how long ago that stone was literally laid in that shape. It's just such a different time. What was the person wearing? Well, I nearly fell into the ancient structure. Just imagine the fashion back then. They weren't wearing it for fashion, they were wearing it for necessity.
It's quite a big project.
Probably like a lot of the stuff they wore would have been clothes and stuff that they made out of animals and livestock that they were rearing. But also there may have been a sort of trade system back at that time that we wouldn't even know. Maybe they had a local bigger settlement or town, and then the places from these smaller areas maybe went at a certain time to trade the stuff they'd been storing. Maybe off season you would get more money for your grain. But I think with these places you could have even brought your sheep in here overnight, and if there was wolves, the sheep and livestock were protected within these structures. But it's interesting with the outline of stones that I'm seeing here, that's the only little side chamber that I'm seeing. But I've not investigated that corner yet. I'm wanting to see what's over here. Wow, it's cool that the farmer does leave this bit in the field. There's like a big hole there, but like so much has changed in that thousands of years. It's just mad that there's any sign of anything left. Wow, this is so cool, folks. It's like stepping back in time. When we go on these adventures, it's almost like you can just imagine how it was originally. You can just imagine the hustle and bustle that potentially went on. Maybe these buildings reused over the years for different generations of folks with different cultures. Oh, look at this, folks. Look, it says Shanzi Souterrain 2000, so that must be a special stone.
It must have been when they excavated it or something.
Aye, they maybe excavated it or did some work here, or maybe just a memorial. Just to mark that Iron Age history on the land. Wow, it's perfect exploring conditions today, folks. And just look at this landscape that we're in. Wow, it is a true Scottish paradise. And I need to watch it. I'm kind of in this rough land now, but I'm wanting to make the most of this adventure and record all the available history. If you can imagine, the souterrain structure comes right around this curve, and you can see the low point in the ground. It actually looks like it's been higher there than it has been at this side, which is interesting because most of the souterrains we've seen are built on like a level structure, like a level piece of ground, landscape. Check out the thistles here as well, folks. Look, they're dying off for the winter. The frost has taken its toll on them. And whenever you get a wild piece of land like this, the thistle normally shows its face. I think it's cool. Look at these things here that's in the land, folks. A little bit of colour in the autumn. Yeah, wow. Highlander 87 saying it reminds him of the shape of the early one, and that is interesting because it's super close. It's probably like 3 miles that way, or maybe no even 2 miles maybe over that direction.
So I wonder if they were connected.
So yeah, could have been a similar kind of architect, or they would have known what the person down the road was doing. They maybe were in communication, but obviously they had seen the other souterrains or knew about them because they're all built similar. So the interesting thing with this is you have to imagine if they had these extra little tunnels and chambers round, like you have to think what were they doing in each one of those separate areas. It was such a big construction. That's how you think of it. It was just one family with like a farm or whatever. Again, why did they need all that? Maybe it was more obviously for storing like a village worth supply of grain and animals. Yeah, it's just incredible, folks. I'm mind blown once again by the history. I can hear an old tractor coming up the way. I just have to hope my car is not in the way of the gentleman in this tractor. Wow, yeah, look at this, folks. It's history which has been taken back over by nature. Another interesting thing, folks, on the hill just behind these trees here is actually an ancient Iron Age hill fort, which is super cool to see. So we'll do that in a future video as well. I have been there in a previous video, but it's interesting to see this so close in the land. All this Iron Age history within this couple of mile radius between all the souterrains and the hill forts. And you have to like imagine what they were doing in all these areas. Again, in a similar time period, but I suppose within 200 years we consider it a similar time period, whereas actually civilization may have changed drastically. So that's the interesting questions we ask on the history of these places, folks, as we explore. It's cool to come and see what's left to this day, and then we can all make our own opinion up about the history from so long ago. So it was the perfect opportunity today, folks, to explore that wee souterrain, because the field is just stubble here and it's not been seeded with the new crop. Obviously we do come with respect of like the landowner when we're on these adventures exploring. It's so cool being able to see stuff like that and document it before the field is growing again with fresh crops, and it's harder to get to it and it's harder to see as much. And now that the summertime conditions are starting to pass by, it's easier to see what's within that long grass and the overgrown wilderness. Anyway, that's us just about back to the car, folks. So I'm going to end this one here. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll be back soon with another adventure wherever we end up going into this wild land of Scotland.